Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. We love to really get into some interesting topics, and today we're talking about something we all do, but probably don't think too much about, and that is sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah, we were not just talking about human sleep. We are going all the way into the animal kingdom,
That's right.
talking about sleep across species, and we're going to learn some really interesting stuff about all the different ways that animals sleep, and maybe think about how that applies back to our own sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
We're looking at Chapter 4 of this great book all about sleep.
Okay.
And yeah, let's just jump right into it. One of the most interesting things to me from this chapter is that sleep is not new.
It's
Like,
old.
it predates the dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, sleep is ancient. It predates dinosaurs. It's a really fundamental behavior, and I think it's something that we really take for granted.
Yeah.
We just sort of assume that that's just what we do, as humans and other animals, but it's really interesting to think about how far back it goes.
Yeah. And even like tiny little organisms.
Yeah, even bacteria have these activity cycles that resemble our own circadian rhythm.
So it's almost like from the very beginning of life, there's been this sort of drive to move between states of activity and rest.
Yeah, it's like a very, very basic function,
Yeah.
like a fundamental part of life.
And it makes you think, like, if it's persisted for so long and across so many species, it must offer some pretty incredible benefits. Like, why would we keep doing it if it wasn't so important?
Right. Well, that is sort of the mystery, and we'll probably get into that a bit. But, being awake,
Yeah.
has all these risks. You're exposed to predators, and it requires constant energy and attention and effort. And so sleep, which is sort of this default state, why would we bother to wake up at all, given all those risks of wakefulness?
I like that you're kind of flipping the script on us instead of thinking about why we need sleep. You're like, why do we even bother waking up?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've established that sleep is ancient and essential, but is it all the same? Like, do all creatures sleep the same amount?
That's a great question. And, at first you might assume that, bigger animals sleep more, or that predators who, maybe don't have as many worries would sleep more than prey. But it turns out it's much more complex than that, and there's no single rule that explains it all.
So there's no magic formula like body size plus diet equals sleep time.
Nope, not at all. And that's what makes it so interesting. Take opossums, for example. They're pretty small, but they sleep almost as much as brown bats,
Really?
which are like the champions of sleep in the animal kingdom.
Wow.
And then you've got guinea pigs and baboons, which are completely different animals in almost every way, and they have almost identical sleep times.
So there's no like easy correlation between size or diet or even predator versus prey status.
Nope, it's a mystery.
So what are scientists saying about these bizarre differences?
Well, they're looking at a whole bunch of factors, things like diet, environment, social structures, even brain complexity.
Wait, are you saying that like a more complex brain equals more sleep?
It seems that way, yeah.
Hmm.
There does seem to be a correlation there. And, one theory is that all that intense neural activity, what we do when we're awake, it creates a kind of metabolic mess that needs to be cleaned up during sleep.
So our brains are like working really hard all day, and then they need that time to kind of reset and recharge?
Exactly.
That makes sense. But what about those animals that don't fit the pattern at all? Like the book mentioned giraffes. I think they barely sleep at all.
Right, exactly. Those are the ones that are really interesting, the outliers, the ones that break the rules, because they might be the key to unlocking even more secrets about sleep. Each species that sleeps in an unexpected way gives us clues. Maybe there are benefits to sleep that we haven't even considered yet.
It's like each animal's like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about how much different animals sleep. What about the type of sleep? Is all sleep created equal?
Ah, good question. And the answer is no, not all sleep is the same. It turns out there are different types of sleep, and not all animals experience them in the same way.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So all animals seem to have what's called NREM sleep.
NREM.
Yeah, that's the kind of sleep without learning. But REM sleep, the kind where we have those vivid dreams, that's more exclusive, mostly found in birds and mammals.
Oh, right.
But even within mammals, there are some fascinating exceptions.
I think I know where you're going with this, dolphins and whales.
You got it. Those guys, they sleep with only half their brain at a time.
Frick science fiction.
I know, right?
Oh.
Imagine needing to sleep, but also needing to constantly swim to the surface to breathe.
Yeah, that's a tough combo.
That's the challenge dolphins and whales face, and so scientists believe that they may have evolved to skip REM sleep entirely
Really?
to avoid that complete muscle paralysis that comes with it.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then you've got got seals, they can actually switch REM sleep on and off depending on whether they're on land or in the water.
So they can choose when to dream.
It seems that way, and that's a real head scratcher for researchers. Do they get the same benefits from REM sleep in a different way, or are they missing out on something crucial?
And what does that even mean to us? Does it challenge our understanding of sleep and dreaming?
Absolutely. It really makes you question what's going on in those other brains.
Yeah.
Are they experiencing something like dreaming, even if they don't have the same kind of REM sleep that we do?
It's like this whole hidden world of sleep that we're just starting to glimpse.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about this sleeping with half a brain thing, this unihemispheric sleep. It just sounds mind-boggling. How do they actually do that?
It's remarkable. Dolphins, for example, can literally shut down one half of their brain while the other half stays awake, and this allows them to come up for air, keep an eye out for predators, all while getting so much needed rest.
That's incredible.
And birds do this too often, sleeping with one eye open and the corresponding half of the brain asleep.
It's like having a built-in night watchman.
Exactly.
But didn't the book mention that humans might have like a very, very mild form of this too?
Yeah, there's some evidence that when we sleep in a new environment, one hemisphere of our brain might be slightly more on alert than the other,
Hmm.
which could be why so many of us have trouble sleeping well in hotels.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I always feel like I'm half listening for danger when I'm in a new place.
Right.
But I guess our unihemispheric sleep skills are pretty pathetic compared to dolphins and birds.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We can't even come close to shutting down half our brain and still functioning the way they can.
Well, maybe someday.
Maybe someday, yeah, that would be quite the superpower.
So we've talked about how much animals sleep, the types of sleep they have, but even without these crazy adaptations like unihemispheric sleep, there are times when animals, including us humans, have to push through extreme sleep deprivation. What happens then? Does the need for sleep just disappear?
Well, not exactly in really rare situations when survival is on the line. The drive to stay awake can override the need for sleep, at least temporarily.
Okay, so it's like the brain is saying, okay, sleep is important, but right now we got to focus on staying alive.
Exactly. It's all about priorities.
So what kind of situations are we talking about?
Well, for example, starving flies and fasting humans, they both sleep less.
Really?
Yeah, their brains seem to think food is scarce, and they need to be on the hunt, even if it means sacrificing sleep.
So it's like their internal alarm bells are going off saying, find food now, sleep later.
Precisely. And there are even more extreme examples, like killer whale mothers and calves, who seem to forego sleep entirely for weeks after birth while they undertake these long and dangerous journeys.
Wow, that's intense.
It is, but perhaps the most amazing adaptation comes from the white-crowned sparrow, a small bird that has caught the attention of scientists and even the U.S. government.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What's so special about this bird, and why is the government interested in its sleep habits?
Well, these birds have this incredible ability to function on minimal sleep during their long migrations. They take these ultra-short power naps, sometimes lasting only seconds, and they can do this for days on end. But here's the kicker. They're incredibly resistant to sleep deprivation, but only during migration season. It's like they have this superpower they can switch on and off.
A sleep superpower that's amazing? No wonder the government's interested. Imagine 24-hour soldiers who could function perfectly on almost no sleep.
Right, exactly. It's the stuff of science fiction, but while these birds are mastering extreme sleep schedules, it seems like us modern humans might be messing up our sleep in a big way.
Oh no, what are we doing wrong?
Well, think about it. Our modern world with its artificial lights and late-night schedules and constant demands, it's basically hijacked our natural sleep patterns.
Yeah, that's true.
We've begun what's called monophasic sleepers, meaning we try to cram all of our sleep into one long chunk at night.
Okay.
But our ancestors in many cultures around the world, still today, they practice a different kind of sleep called biphasic sleep.
Biphasic, so that means you sleep in two separate chunks.
Exactly. A longer sleep at night and a shorter nap in the middle of the day. And guess what? This actually aligns more closely with our natural biological rhythms.
So like that afternoon slump we all experience.
Exactly. That might be our body's signal to take a siesta, not just the result of a heavy lunch.
So you're saying those afternoon energy dips aren't just because I had that extra slice of pizza, it's my body actually telling me to take a nap.
It could very well be, and ignoring that natural rhythm might have consequences.
Oh no, what kind of consequences?
Well, the book talks about this fascinating study that looked at what happened when people in Greece abandoned their traditional siesta.
Okay.
Their risk of heart disease increased significantly.
Wow, that's pretty compelling evidence that maybe we need to rethink our aversion to napping.
I think so. Those midday siestas might deserve a comeback.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like a nap coming on right now.
Maybe we should take one after this.
But before we do, I have one more question that's been bugging me. Humans, we sleep less than other primates, right? But we seem to have more of that REM sleep, the dream-filled kind. Why is that?
That's a great question. And that difference might be connected to how our sleep habits evolved, specifically our transition from sleeping in trees to sleeping on the ground.
Okay, remind me how that connects to REM sleep.
Well, you got to think about our primate ancestors sleeping up in those trees deep. REM sleep with its muscle paralysis would have been pretty dangerous.
Yeah, one bad dream and they could end up on the forest floor.
Exactly, not a good way to wake up. But once our ancestors, like Homo erectus, began sleeping on the ground, that risk disappeared.
So the ground became this giant evolutionary safety net for REM sleep.
Exactly. They were free to enjoy longer, deeper periods of REM sleep without the fear of falling, and that might have had huge implications for how we evolved.
Okay, now I'm really curious, what kind of impact are we talking about here? How did sleeping on the ground change us?
Well, one theory is that this increase in REM sleep played a crucial role in the development of our complex emotions, our social skills, and even our creativity.
So sleeping on the ground led to more REM sleep, which in turn led to bigger brains, better social skills, and more creativity. It's a pretty incredible chain of events.
It's a fascinating idea and one that has a lot of scientists excited. It makes you wonder if our modern sleep habits, with all the disruptions and lack of REM sleep, could be hindering our full potential.
It's a lot to think about and definitely makes me want to prioritize my sleep a little more.
Me too.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but we're just getting started.
That's right.
Before we were talking about how this shift to sleeping on the ground might have like supercharged our ancestors' REM sleep and really allowed for some pretty incredible evolutionary leaps.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to think about.
Yeah, and I'm curious to dig into that a little bit more. Like, how did more REM sleep actually translate into like a more advanced brain?
Well, one of the things that's really striking is that while other primates, they might spend more total time sleeping, we humans, we dedicate a much larger proportion of our sleep to REM. So it's like we've traded sleep quantity for REM quality, and this might be like one of the key ingredients in what makes us human.
So more REM equals like a more advanced brain. How does that work? What's happening during REM that could have such a powerful effect?
Well, think of REM sleep like a nightly workout. But for our brains, it seems to be really crucial for processing emotions, solidifying memories, and even for boosting creative thinking. And so by getting more of this REM workout, our ancestors might have developed a significant cognitive advantage.
So you're saying that this boost in REM sleep could have helped early humans develop like stronger emotional intelligence, which in turn allowed for more complex social structures and communities.
Exactly. The ability to understand and respond to the emotions of others is crucial for building trust and cooperation and those large-scale social structures that are unique to humans. And REM sleep seems to be a key player in developing that ability.
And we
Yeah,
can't forget about the creativity boost that comes with REM sleep.
right.
I know when I'm well rested, I feel much more creative and able to think outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely. REM sleep, it's like a brainstorming session for the brain. It allows us to make those aha connections that lead to new inventions and artistic expressions and new ways of thinking.
It's almost like our brains are working on these problems in the background while we sleep, and then boom, the answer just pops into our heads.
It's a pretty amazing process.
Do scientists have any idea how that works?
Well, there are a lot of theories, but we're still unraveling the mysteries of the sleeping brain. One idea is that during REM sleep, our brains are free from the constraints of logic and conscious thought, allowing for these unexpected connections and creative leaps to emerge.
So are you saying that a good night's sleep, especially one rich in REM, could be the key to unlocking our creative potential and even driving human progress? Like, are we talking about the ability to, like, create art, build civilizations, even land on the moon?
While it's impossible to say for sure, it's definitely a compelling piece of the puzzle. There are many factors that contribute to human achievements, but REM sleep, it seems to play a critical role in shaping our cognitive abilities and social intelligence, both of which are essential for innovation and advancement.
This is really making me rethink my relationship with sleep. It's not just about feeling rested. It's not like tapping into our full potential as humans. And that makes me wonder if REM sleep is so crucial for our development as a species. Are we getting enough of it in our modern world?
That's the million-dollar question. In our always-on, hyper-connected society, sleep also gets pushed aside. We stay up late working or scrolling through our phones, exposing ourselves to artificial light that disrupts our natural sleep-wake cycles.
It's like we're unintentionally undermining our own cognitive abilities and emotional well-being.
It's a real concern.
Yeah, it's like we're so focused on being productive and staying connected that we've forgotten the importance of simply disconnecting and allowing our minds and bodies to truly rest and recharge.
I think that's a big part of it.
But before we spiral into a sleep-deprived existential crisis, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the different sleep patterns, monophasic versus biphasic.
Right.
I'm still intrigued by this idea that maybe we're not sleeping the way we were designed to.
It's a fascinating concept. Our modern obsession with the 8-hour single block sleep schedule, it might not be the most natural or even the healthiest approach. Remember our ancestors in many cultures around the world, still today they practice biphasic sleep.
Right. That means a longer sleep at night with a shorter nap in the middle of the day.
Exactly, and that pattern actually aligns more closely with our natural circadian rhythms.
And remember that study we discussed about the Greek siesta tradition?
Yeah.
They really highlighted the potential health risks associated with abandoning that biphasic sleep pattern. It made me wonder if our modern nonstop lifestyles are impacting our health in ways we haven't fully considered.
Yeah, that study was quite a wake-up call for a lot of people. It suggests that our bodies might literally be paying the price for trying to cram all of our sleep into a single block at night.
So maybe we need to stop thinking of naps as lazy or unproductive and start seeing them as a necessary investment in our health and well-being.
I think so. Maybe those midday siestas deserve a comeback.
Yeah, it's funny because I always feel my best when I can manage to squeeze in a little afternoon nap. Like my mind feels sharper, my mood is brighter. It's like a reset button for my whole system.
I know exactly what you mean.
But in our fast-paced world, finding time for a nap often feels impossible. It's like we're conditioned to believe that every minute must be optimized for productivity.
It's a cultural shift that we really need to rethink. Maybe instead of glorifying busyness and sleep deprivation, we need to start celebrating rest and prioritize sleep as a fundamental pillar of a healthy and fulfilling life. We can learn a lot from the sleep habits of other species and our own ancestors.
I completely agree. We need to stop seeing sleep as a weakness or something to be minimized and start recognizing it as a powerful tool for enhancing our minds, our bodies, and even our creativity. It's like sleep is a superpower that we've forgotten how to use.
That's a great way to put it. And, the animal kingdom is full of fascinating examples of how different species have adapted their sleep patterns to survive and thrive in their environments.
Right.
We've already talked about the amazing unihemispheric sleep of dolphins and whales, but there are even more extreme examples out there.
Like those killer whale mothers and calves who seemingly skip sleep entirely for weeks after birth while they're traveling vast distances.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just mind-blowing how they can function on such little rest.
It really highlights how vital sleep is for survival and how in certain situations the drive to stay awake and protect their young can override the need for sleep, at least temporarily. But perhaps one of the most astonishing examples of sleep adaptation comes from the white-crowned sparrow.
Oh yes, the tiny bird with the migratory sleep superpower.
That's the one.
The one that can go for days without sleep and seemingly suffer no ill effects.
Exactly. It's incredible.
That story really captivated me. What's the latest on that research? Have scientists figured out their secret?
Well, they're getting closer, it seems, that this incredible ability to function on minimal sleep, it's a highly specialized adaptation that allows them to survive those long, arduous migrations. And it's not just about reducing the amount of sleep. They've also evolved ways to make the sleep. They do get incredibly efficient. They can even enter a sleep state while still flying.
Wait, sleep while flying? Are you serious?
Yeah, it's remarkable.
They really do have a sleep superpower.
They do, and it's not just about the quantity of sleep. They've also evolved ways to make the sleep. They do get incredibly efficient. Entering a state of deep sleep almost instantly, it's like they've mastered the art of power napping on an entirely different level. But even for the white-crowned sparrow with its amazing adaptations, there are limits. Outside of migration season, they experience sleep deprivation just like any other animal.
That's an important point. It shows that even for a species that can seemingly switch off its need for sleep, there's still a price to be paid when those natural rhythms are disrupted for too long.
Exactly. Sleep, it's a fundamental biological process, and even the most extreme adaptations can't completely eliminate the need for rest and recovery.
So while we might not have the migratory superpowers of a white-crowned sparrow, their story and the stories of all the other amazing sleep adaptations we've discussed, they remind us just how crucial and powerful sleep is for all creatures, including humans. And it makes me wonder what other sleep secrets are hidden out there in the animal kingdom just waiting to be discovered.
It's an exciting time to be studying sleep. With new technologies and research methods, we're gaining a deeper understanding of this complex and fundamental process. And who knows, maybe those discoveries will help us unlock even more of our own sleep potential.
I can't wait to see what we learn next, but for now I think it's time we turn our attention back to human sleep and explore what makes our sleep unique, what sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom when it comes to catching those Z's.
All right, let's do it. We humans, we're definitely unique sleepers, even compared to our closest primate relatives.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true, we sleep less overall, but we spend a much larger proportion of our sleep in that REM stage, the one filled with all the vivid dreams. It's almost like we've prioritized quality over quantity when it comes to REM sleep.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that this might have something to do with us, transitioning from sleeping in trees to sleeping on the ground. Can you remind me how that connects to our REM sleep?
Sure, so imagine our primate ancestors sleeping high up in the trees.
Okay.
Deep REM sleep with its muscle paralysis would have been incredibly risky. One wrong twitch in their sleep, and they could end up on the forest floor.
Yeah, not a good look.
Not a good look at all. But as our ancestors, like Homo erectus, started sleeping on the ground, well, that danger disappeared.
So it's like the ground became this giant evolutionary safety net for REM sleep.
Exactly. They were free to enjoy longer, more intense periods of REM sleep without the fear of taking a tumble.
And that freedom to really dive deep into that dream state could have been a real game changer for our evolution.
It might have been a huge turning point.
Yeah, shaping our emotions, our social skills, even our creativity in ways that set us apart from other primates. It's amazing to think that such a simple change, moving from trees to the ground, could have had such a profound impact on who we are as a species.
I know, it's really remarkable.
So are you saying that those long stretches of REM sleep essentially helped us become more human?
It's a fascinating idea, and one that has a lot of support in the scientific community. Think about it, the ability to process complex emotions, to form those strong social bonds, to come up with creative solutions. These are all like hallmarks of what makes us human, and REM sleep seems to play a crucial role in developing and refining all those abilities.
So REM sleep is like the secret ingredient in the recipe for human intelligence and social complexity.
Yeah, you could say that.
It allowed us to build communities, create art, tell stories, invent technologies. Essentially, it gave us the tools to become the humans we are today.
It's a powerful thought.
And it makes you wonder, are we giving our modern brains enough of that crucial REM sleep time?
That's the big question.
Or are our sleep habits, with all the distractions and disruptions, actually limiting our full potential?
It's a real concern. We're so bombarded with information, artificial light, constant demands on our time and attention. It's no wonder so many of us struggle to get a good night's sleep.
And it's not just about the quantity of sleep, right?
Right.
It's about the quality, all those late nights, the blue light from our phones and computers, the stress and anxiety that keeps us from relaxing. All those things can disrupt our sleep cycles, particularly our REM sleep. So we're unintentionally shortchanging ourselves, robbing our brains of that crucial REM time that could be helping us be more emotionally intelligent, more creative, more connected to each other. It's almost like we've forgotten the importance of simply unplugging and allowing our minds to wander to dream, to make those unexpected connections that can lead to breakthroughs.
I think that's a really important point. We're so obsessed with productivity and optimization that we've neglected the power of rest and rejuvenation.
Yes.
Sleep, it's not a weakness. It's an essential part of what makes us human. And REM sleep, with its ability to enhance our emotional intelligence, boost our creativities, help us process the complexities of our lives, it might be the key to unlocking our full potential, both individually and as a society.
It's like we need a sleep revolution, a collective shift in mindset that prioritizes rest and recognizes sleep as a powerful tool for personal growth and even societal progress.
I couldn't agree more. We need to reclaim sleep from the clutches of busyness and start seeing it as a fundamental human right, as essential as food, water, and connection. By understanding the science of sleep and embracing its incredible power, we can create a world where people are not just surviving, but thriving, fueled by the restorative energy of a good night's sleep.
What an incredible journey this deep dive has been. We started by exploring the sleep habits of the animal kingdom, uncovering fascinating adaptations and mind-boggling sleep strategies. And then we circled back to ourselves, realizing that human sleep, particularly our reliance on REM sleep, is unique and deeply intertwined with our evolution as a species.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it's clear that sleep is far more than just a passive state of rest. It's an active, dynamic process that shapes our lives in extraordinary ways, from processing emotions to fostering creativity, from strengthening social bonds to driving human progress. Sleep might just be the most powerful tool we have for enhancing our lives and unlocking our full potential. So next time you find yourself tempted to burn the midnight oil, remember what we've learned today. Make time for sleep, prioritize rest, embrace the power of those dreams. It's not just about feeling rested, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of sleep. We'll catch you on the next episode where we'll explore another captivating topic. Until then, sleep well, dream big, and remember, a good night's sleep is an investment in yourself, your well-being, and your human potential. 1999